"We're so sorry, Mom, but we just can't make it tomorrow night." My son's voice through the phone carried that familiar apologetic tone, the one I'd heard countless times over the years. I clutched the receiver tighter, staring at the birthday cake recipe I'd been planning to bake myself. 65 years old tomorrow, and I'd be celebrating alone. "It's just that this travel opportunity came up suddenly," Eric continued, background noise suggesting he was at an airport. "A last-minute deal to Europe that we absolutely couldn't pass up. You understand, right?" I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "Of course I understand. Europe is lovely this time of year." "You're the best, Mom," he said, relief evident in his voice. "We'll make it up to you when we get back. Maybe take you to that Italian place you like?" The Italian place I liked was where I'd already made reservations for the three of us tomorrow night. "That sounds nice," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Have a wonderful trip. Be safe." "Love you, Mom." "Oh, Vanessa wants to say hi." I heard a rustle as the phone changed hands. "Martha, darling." My daughter-in-law's voice bubbled through the line with manufactured enthusiasm. "So sorry about your birthday dinner, just terrible timing with this trip. But you always say experiences matter more than things, right?" I had indeed said that, when encouraging them to spend more meaningfully and less impulsively. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Absolutely," I agreed, playing along. "Where in Europe are you headed?" "Paris first, then the French Riviera, finishing in Rome." Vanessa's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "And guess what? Eric managed to score us an upgrade to first class. Can you believe it?" My eyebrows rose involuntarily. First class? On their combined income as a mid-level bank employee and part-time yoga instructor? "That's wonderful," I managed. "How fortunate." "We really lucked out," she continued, oblivious to my concern. "Listen, we're boarding now. Happy birthday in advance. 64 is going to be amazing." 65, I corrected quietly, but she had already hung up. I set the phone down and looked around my tidy kitchen, the evening sun casting long shadows across the countertops. The calendar on my refrigerator had tomorrow's date circled in red marker: birthday dinner with Eric and Vanessa, 7 p.m. I should have known better than to get my hopes up. This wasn't the first time they'd canceled plans with me, but it stung more sharply today, perhaps because this birthday felt significant. My first milestone birthday since Harold died 5 years ago. Or perhaps because I'd been looking forward to sharing my news. I'd finally decided to sell the house and move to that coastal retirement community I'd been eyeing. With a resigned sigh, I picked up the phone again and dialed the restaurant. "Bella Notte, how may I help you?" "Hello, I need to change a reservation for tomorrow night at 7. Campbell, party of 3. "Of course, Mrs. Campbell. What would you like to change?" I hesitated. "Could you make it for 1 person instead of 3? A brief pause. "Certainly. Will there be anything else?" "No, thank you," I said, then added impulsively, "Actually, could you please not bring a birthday dessert with a candle? I had requested that earlier, but I'd rather not now." "As you wish, Mrs. Campbell. We'll see you tomorrow at 7. After hanging up, I abandoned the cake recipe and poured myself a glass of wine. Harold would have known exactly what to say to make me laugh about this. He'd been gone for 5 years, but I still caught myself turning to share thoughts with him, especially in quiet moments like this. "Well, Harold," I said aloud to the empty kitchen, "looks like it's just me tomorrow night." The next evening, I dressed carefully in a blue dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion, applied makeup with extra attention, and drove myself to Bella Notte. The maitre d' greeted me warmly but couldn't quite hide the flicker of pity in his eyes as he led me to a table clearly meant for a group, now set for 1. "Your server will be right with you," he said kindly. "And may I wish you a happy birthday, Mrs. Campbell." I thanked him, settling into my chair and placing my purse on the empty seat beside me. The restaurant buzzed with conversation and laughter, families celebrating, couples leaning close across candlelit tables, friends raising glasses in toasts. Everyone seemed to be with someone. Everyone except me. My phone chimed with notifications, birthday wishes on social media from former colleagues, distant relatives, neighbors, but nothing from Eric or Vanessa. They were probably in the air now, champagne glasses clinking as they stretched their legs in the spacious first-class cabin. I ordered a glass of Pinot Noir and the salmon I'd been looking forward to. When the waiter asked if anyone would be joining me, I shook my head and watched as he removed the extra place settings, each one a small reminder of my solitude. As I sipped my wine, I found myself wondering how my son and his wife could afford first-class tickets to Europe when just 3 months ago, Eric had called asking if I could loan them $3,000 for car repairs. It wasn't the first such request. Over the past 2 years, I'd given them nearly $20,000 for various emergencies and expenses, money that had never been repaid despite their initial promises. "It's just until my bonus comes through, Mom," Eric would say. "We'll pay you back as soon as Vanessa's studio starts turning a profit," he'd promise. I'd always said yes. What mother wouldn't help her only child if she could? After a career as a high school teacher and Harold's prudent investments, I was comfortable, though far from wealthy. I could afford to help, so I did. But first-class tickets to Europe? Luxury hotels? Something didn't add up. The waiter brought my salmon, beautifully plated and garnished. "Enjoy your meal, ma'am." I stared at the empty chairs across from me, a sudden resolve hardening in my chest. This birthday might be spent alone, but I was determined it would be the last one where I felt like an afterthought in my own life, an ATM rather than a mother. Tomorrow, I decided as I cut into my salmon, I would make some calls. It was time to understand exactly how my son was financing his lavish lifestyle, and perhaps time to make some long overdue changes. Little did I know that my 65th birthday would mark not just another year of life, but the beginning of a reckoning that would change my relationship with my son forever. The morning after my solitary birthday dinner, I awoke with purpose. Rather than dwelling on yesterday's disappointment, I made myself a proper breakfast, poached eggs on toast, the way Harold used to prepare them, and sat down at my computer with a cup of strong coffee. First, I checked my email. Several birthday wishes had arrived overnight, including one from my sister in Arizona and another from my best friend Grace, who was traveling in New Zealand, but nothing from Eric or Vanessa. Not that I expected anything while they were flying to Europe, but the absence still stung. On impulse, I opened Facebook. I rarely used social media, finding it more overwhelming than entertaining, but I kept an account to see photos of friends' grandchildren and stay connected with former students. I typed Eric's name in the search bar and clicked on his profile. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. There, posted 7 hours ago, was a photo of my son and daughter-in-law reclining in plush seats, champagne flutes in hand, with the caption, "First class all the way to Paris, living the dream. Blessed your first-class life." They weren't just in first class. The photo showed lie-flat seats, premium headphones, and what looked like a multi-course meal being served on actual china. This wasn't just an upgrade. This was top-tier international first class, the kind that costs thousands per ticket. I scrolled down. 4 hours ago, another post appeared. A nighttime shot of the Eiffel Tower glittering against the dark sky. Made it to Paris, checking into the Ritz before exploring the City of Lights. Bucket list, yacht, luxury. The Ritz. In Paris. My hands trembled slightly as I set down my coffee cup. The last time Eric had called for money, just 3 weeks ago, he'd claimed they were struggling to make rent on their apartment. I'd wired him $1,800 without hesitation. Now, they were staying at the Ritz. I clicked on Vanessa's profile next. She was more active on social media than Eric, constantly posting carefully staged photos of their life, always giving the impression of success and luxury. Her latest post made my blood run cold. "Finally using Martha's birthday week to take the European vacation we've been planning. Sorry we'll miss the cake, but we're celebrating you from Paris. No regrets, just treat yourself." Martha's birthday week? As if my birthday was somehow the reason for their trip, rather than an inconvenient obligation they'd chosen to skip. And they were celebrating me from Paris? By not even sending a text message? I sat back in my chair, a strange calm settling over me. This wasn't just thoughtlessness. This felt deliberate, calculated even. With newfound determination, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into my online banking. Harold had always handled our finances during our marriage, and even after his death, I'd maintained a somewhat hands-off approach, reviewing paper statements but rarely checking accounts online. Eric had offered to help modernize my financial management about a year ago, setting up online access for me, but also insisting I add him as an authorized user in case of emergency. The dashboard loaded, showing my checking and savings accounts. The balances looked correct, but something prompted me to check my recent transaction history. I clicked through to the detailed view. My heart nearly stopped. There, Listed over the past 3 months were multiple transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Some were labeled Eric Support or Family Help, but others had no description at all. Together, they totaled over $30,000, far more than the occasional loans I'd knowingly provided. With growing horror, I clicked through to my investment account, the nest egg Harold had carefully built for our retirement, the fund I'd been living on since his death. The balance was nearly $80,000 lower than I remembered from my last quarterly statement. My hands shook as I picked up my phone and dialed Grace, who had been a financial advisor before retirement. "Happy birthday again, Martha," she answered cheerfully, despite the time difference in New Zealand. "Grace," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "I need your help. I think Eric has been taking money from my accounts without my knowledge." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Finally, Grace sighed. "Martha, I've been worried about this for a while. The way they live, it never added up." "You suspected?" I asked, a hint of accusation in my tone. "I've had concerns," she admitted, "but you were always so quick to defend them, to explain away their lifestyle as good investments or career advancements. I didn't want to overstep." "Well, now I need you to overstep," I said firmly. "Walk me through what I should do." For the next hour, Grace guided me through a thorough audit of my finances. We found evidence of dozens of unauthorized transfers dating back nearly 18 months. We discovered credit card accounts opened in my name that I'd never seen. Most disturbingly, we found mortgage refinance paperwork on my house, with Eric listed as the primary borrower and me as the co-signer, documents I had no memory of signing. "This looks like forgery, Martha," Grace said gravely. "Or at the very least, he had you sign papers without explaining what they really were." I remembered Eric bringing over documents last Thanksgiving, claiming they were just routine updates to my will and power of attorney. I'd signed without reading carefully, trusting my only child implicitly. "What do I do now?" I asked, a strange calm replacing my initial shock. "First, secure what's left," Grace advised. "Change all your passwords, remove Eric's access to every account, then call your bank's fraud department and your attorney." "And after that?" I asked. Grace hesitated. "That depends on what you want, Martha. This could be a criminal matter if you choose to pursue it that way." I glanced at my computer screen, still open to Vanessa's smiling face as she posed in front of the Eiffel Tower, using the occasion of my birthday as a hashtag to justify their luxury trip. "What I want," I said slowly, "is for them to understand exactly what they've done, not just to my finances, but to my trust." After hanging up with Grace, I spent the next 3 hours making calls to my bank, to my investment company, to the credit card companies where accounts had been opened in my name. I changed every password, revoked all authorized users, and placed fraud alerts on my credit report. Then I called Henry Matthews, my attorney and a longtime family friend. "Martha," he greeted me warmly. "I was going to call with birthday wishes. How are you?" "I've been better, Henry," I replied. "I need your help with something urgent. How quickly can you freeze a home equity line of credit?" By late afternoon, I had regained control of all my accounts and blocked any further access. Henry had also discovered something particularly troubling. Eric had taken out a $50,000 home equity line of credit on my house just 2 weeks ago, with nearly all of it already withdrawn. As I sat at my kitchen table reviewing all I'd learned, a notification popped up on my phone. Another Facebook post from Vanessa. "Dinner reservations at Le Jules Verne in the Eiffel Tower tonight. Starting this vacation in style. Living your best life." I zoomed in on the image. Vanessa was holding a credit card, posing as she handed it to the waiter. It was a distinctive platinum color I recognized immediately. The premium card opened in my name 6 months ago. That's when I knew exactly what I needed to do. With steady hands, I picked up my phone and dialed the international number for the Ritz Paris. "Bonjour, Ritz Paris. Comment puis-je vous aider?" came the polished voice on the other end. "Yes, hello," I replied calmly. "I need to speak with someone about a fraudulent credit card being used by guests at your hotel." Before we continue with Martha's plan, I want to invite you to join our exclusive story group where you'll have access to special stories like this one without any ads. You can even listen offline. Just check out the first pinned comment below. Now let's get back to see what Martha does next. "Madam Campbell, I understand your concern, but we must follow certain protocols in these situations," the Ritz Paris financial manager explained in accented English. "If you are claiming the card is being used fraudulently, We will need to verify your identity before taking any action. Of course, I replied, sitting straighter in my kitchen chair. I have all the necessary information. For the next 15 minutes, I provided everything they requested. My full name, billing address, the card number, security code, and answers to security questions. With each verification, I felt a strange mix of anger and vindication. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reclaiming what was mine. "Thank you for your patience, Madame Campbell," the manager finally said. "We have confirmed that you are indeed the card holder of record. The guests in question, Monsieur and Madame Campbell, checked in earlier today for a 5-night stay in one of our deluxe suites." I nearly choked. A 5-night stay in a deluxe suite at the Ritz Paris would cost more than I'd spent on an entire month's living expenses. "I understand they have dinner reservations at Le Jules Verne this evening," I continued. "I assume that's being charged to the room as well?" "Oui, madame, along with spa services scheduled for tomorrow morning and a private tour of the Louvre." My hands tightened around the phone. The audacity was breathtaking. "Here's what I need you to do," I said, my teacher voice emerging, the tone I'd used for 30 years when students needed clear boundaries. "I am reporting this card as stolen. I want you to cancel it immediately in your system and decline any further charges." "Certainly, madame." "And regarding their current accommodations?" I considered my options carefully. Part of me wanted to have them ejected from the hotel immediately, their belongings unceremoniously deposited on the sidewalk. But a more measured approach would be more effective and more satisfying in the long run. "Please allow them to return from dinner," I decided. "Then inform them that there's an issue with their payment method and all additional hotel privileges, room service, spa, concierge services, are suspended until a valid form of payment is provided." "As you wish, madame." "And if they attempt to provide another card? Check the name carefully," I instructed. "Accept only cards issued in their names, not mine." After finishing with the Ritz, I made similar calls to American Express, Visa, and MasterCard, reporting every card opened in my name as fraudulent and requesting immediate cancellation. By the time I finished, every credit line Eric and Vanessa might access under my name had been cut off. But I wasn't done yet. My next call was to their airline. This proved more challenging. Airlines have stricter privacy policies, but after explaining the situation and providing verification of the fraudulent charges, I managed to have their return tickets canceled. The first-class journey home they'd booked for next week no longer existed. By early evening, I'd systematically dismantled their entire European vacation finance structure. The only money they would have access to would be whatever cash they'd brought along or funds from accounts actually belonging to them, which, based on what I knew of their finances, wouldn't get them very far in Paris. I made one final call to the credit monitoring service recommended by Grace and set up alerts for any new accounts or inquiries made in my name. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and waited. It was just after midnight when my phone rang. The screen displayed Eric's name, the international call connecting from France. It would be around 9 p.m. in Paris. They'd likely just returned from their extravagant dinner to find their first surprise. I let it ring 4 times, using the moments to compose myself, then answered. "Hello, Mom?" Eric's voice held a note of confusion I'd never heard before. "There's some kind of problem with the hotel. They're saying the credit card was canceled. There must be some mistake." I took a slow sip of wine before responding. "No mistake, Eric. I canceled it." A beat of silence. "You... what? Why would you do that?" "Because it's my credit card, Eric. One I never applied for or authorized." "Mom, I can explain. We were going to surprise you with this trip. It's why we couldn't make your birthday dinner. We're going to bring you back something amazing from Paris." The desperate lie formed in real time, his voice rising slightly in pitch. "That's interesting," I replied calmly. "Because according to Vanessa's Facebook posts, this trip was planned using Martha's birthday week as an excuse to treat yourselves. Not exactly a surprise for me, was it?" Another pause, longer this time. I could hear muffled conversation in the background, Eric covering the phone to consult with Vanessa. "Look, Mom, there's clearly been a misunderstanding. We can sort this out when we get home. But right now, we're in a foreign country and staying at the Ritz Paris," I finished for him. "In a deluxe suite that costs over 2,000 euros per night, charged to a credit card in my name that I never approved, just like the first-class airfare, just like the dinner at the Eiffel Tower tonight, just like the spa treatment scheduled for tomorrow." "Mom, No, Eric. I've spent today discovering exactly how you've been financing your lifestyle. The unauthorized transfers from my accounts, the credit cards opened in my name, the home equity line of credit on my house. My voice remained steady, even as I felt a hot tear slide down my cheek, all while I sat alone at my birthday dinner last